fantastic show as always tonight. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. A lot to bring you, and we'll unpack it all. What is really going on down in the ballot box in Florida? Tonight's Angle investigates the corruption and dirty dealings and tells you why the GOP should unite to fight it. And lawyer to the porn stars, you heard Hannity talking about Michael Avenatti in some legal trouble of his own, and Michelle Obama taking some subtle, cheap shots at President Trump. Raymond Arroyo's got it all in Seen and Unseen. Plus, how will they fight the new Democratic majority in Congress? Republican Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Whip Steve Scalise are here exclusively. And former independent counsel Ken Starr and Andy McCarthy are here as well. Lots of legal developments to unpack. But first, snipes and swipes at the ballot box. That's the focus of tonight's Angle. The integrity of our elections is imperiled tonight. We may be witnessing yet another in a series of stolen elections in Florida. Democrats are experts at pulling Swifties at the ballot box. You know, it's widely believed that they resorted to voter fraud in Illinois and in Texas to tilt the election of John F. Kennedy over Nixon in 1960. And they may be up to their old tricks again. Ballot irregularities in Palm Beach and Broward counties in Florida are front and center. The president, of course, has been very vocal about what he believes is happening there.
Any evidence of
Wait, well, you take a look at the past. Take a look at the past. And all of a sudden, they're finding votes? You mean after the election, they're finding votes?
Predictably, the media have rushed in to poo-poo any notion of voter fraud.
There is no evidence to back up the claim aimed at the Florida recount, but it offers a window into the president's state of mind.
To be very clear, and I just want to make sure everybody at home understands, there's no evidence to that story. It's a fever dream. It's like it never happened.
The New York Times yesterday wrote, in Florida, no one has offered evidence of widespread election fraud. No one? I love the weasel word, widespread, neato. If one or two counties in Florida are engaged in voter fraud, it is widespread. It affects the entire state results and the results, perhaps, of the rest of the country. Let's examine the facts. Things are so bad in Palm Beach that Governor Rick Scott, who's in a tight Senate race there, sued the county election supervisor, Susan Bucher. The judge determined that she had illegally withheld overvoted and undervoted ballots from the canvassing board. And worse, she's refused to allow public scrutiny of the ballots. Scott has vowed to fight back against Democrats playing fast and loose with the voters' will.
I will not sit idly by while unethical liberals try to steal this election from the great people of Florida.
And the governor has also sued Broward County election supervisor, something of a kind of her own rock star these days, Brenda Snipes. Now, Snipes is, well, a piece of work. Her predecessor, remember, was literally walked out of her office in 2003 for grave neglect, mismanagement, and incompetence. Practically a tradition down there in Broward. And in May, a judge found Brenda Snipes guilty of illegally destroying ballots during a primary election in 2016. Then in August, a court found her guilty of secretly opening mail-in ballots, which is illegal in the state. Then on Friday, Governor Scott won his lawsuit against Snipes. The court found that in this election, she continued to discover new ballots. She was found in violation of the state's public records laws and has been ordered to release information to Governor Scott. So far, she hasn't complied with the order.
You refused to give the Scott campaign the information they wanted. It had to go to court. The judge said you had to turn it over. You didn't turn it over by the deadline that was given. That is cast as a partisan spat, that you're doing that because you're a Democrat. How do you respond to that?
Well, I was talking with a woman today as she came into our office, and she made some statement about a partisan statement, and she said, I know that you're a Republican. I said I have been a Democrat all my life. In this position, I have been very focused on party because I want to treat all of the voters in Broward County the same. We don't select who we give out information to. We give information to those persons who have requested it. And I believe the public records request says in a timely manner, and we attempt to do that.
And wait a second. Did she actually hear the question? This woman is unbelievable. The Miami Herald reports that an election worker found bags of uncounted early ballots in the Broward County Elections Office. Snipes also mingled rejected provisional ballots with the accepted ones. And then she proceeded to count them all in the official vote tally. Neato. Now a recount is underway where the counters must discern the intent of the voters if there is a mark on the ballot here or there. My friends, this is a complete travesty that cannot be permitted to change the outcome of this election. And it's sadly not restricted to the Sunshine State. We're going to show you what some Democrats are trying in Georgia in just moments. So what's next? I think as the Kavanaugh fight demonstrated, Republicans must stand united to expose the malfeasance and the fraud of the left. Because when we do, we usually win. You can't allow this flouting of the rules and procedures by corrupt officials or political hacks. Can't let it stand. And if we allow this to go unchecked, it will undermine our democracy, and like a contagion, it's going to spread across the nation. 18 years, can you believe it, since Bush v. Gore? It's absolutely unforgivable that we're still dealing with these types of issues. It is time for the Department of Justice to step in and do a top-to-bottom investigation regarding why these issues still persist. And if necessary, people are going to have to go to jail. There have to be repercussions for willful, fraudulent defiance of electoral laws. If this isn't cleaned up, I'm telling you, the GOP can kiss any hopes of restoring their majority, let alone a presidential victory. They can kiss it bye-bye in 2020. And that's the angle. Joining me now, Richard DiNapoli, former chairman of the Broward County GOP and current state committee man, and also a recount monitor, so he's actually in the room while the votes are being tabulated in Broward. And also with me, Blaise Ingoglia, chairman of the Florida Republican Party. Richard, let me start with you tonight. Give us some insight into what you have uncovered as you have observed what's been going on in your home state we all love so much. What have you found?
Well, it's a national embarrassment here in Broward County. We've had Brenda Snipes as the supervisor of elections for about 15 years now. And it's just a repetitive problems, one after another. She's faced multiple lawsuits over the years. She has illegally destroyed ballots. She has not followed the law. And there are so many irregularities in Broward County that all confidence in her is lost as a fair arbiter of, an election. And, just myself on Sunday night, an Avis employee from a rental agency at the airport contacted me and let me know that there was a provisional ballot box left in a rental car at the airport, which did contain unmarked ballots in it. So there are a lot of problems here in Broward County, and no one has any confidence in Brenda Snipes.
Okay, so a box of unmarked ballots. What could possibly go wrong with that? Just floating around in a rental car. Are they supposed to even leave the polling places? I mean, it would seem like, that's like having a test floating around, SAT tests floating around in the back of cars or something. That's just, obviously a lot worse than SAT tests, but it's just ridiculous. Blaise, I want to go to you. It is totally ridiculous. Yeah, Blaise, I want to go to you because Snipes seems to be in willful disobedience of court orders. She just simply doesn't care. She's making $178,000 a year. I think she got a 10-20% salary bump up in 2016, so she's making pretty good coin for screwing up another election. But why should anyone have faith in this process here? And yet all these media outlets say, oh, there's no fraud at all. Look the other way, no fraud.
Yeah, Laura, to your point, the Florida GOP, we sued Brenda Snipes after last election because we saw a lot of the same stuff happening this election. We got a order from a judge just telling her to basically follow the law. It was nothing more than just follow the law. Supervisor Snipes then went to court asking them to lift that order, and we had to go back to get them to put that order back in place for this election. But by her asking a judge to lift the order, and all the order said was just to follow the law, that goes to show you the mindset of a Supervisor Snipes. She clearly does not want to follow the law. She wants to do what she wants to do, and what she's doing is not transparent. She's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, outside of the public eye, and that's eroding the confidence in her abilities and in the electoral process that you are referring to. Here's the problem, and this is the big problem. There's so many problems going on in Broward and Palm Beach County, and this is where the media, the liberal media, gets it wrong, is they keep on saying that there's no evidence of voter fraud. What I'm asking is, show me that there's no voter fraud going on at all, because of all of these inconsistencies. If there was fraudsters that wanted to fraud an election, all they would have to do is head to Broward or Palm Beach.
Yeah, I mean, it should be the opposite. The burden should be on them to show that this is actually working legitimately. I want to play something for both of you. This is Brenda Snipes last night in a tour de force performance on CNN about the separated ballots. Let's watch.
Your critics point to 2020 22 rejected provisional ballots that were put in with a batch of 200 valid ones.
There were 25 ballots in question, not 21, and those 25 ballots had not been counted as of today.
Well, one little problem there. Her own lawyer contradicted what she said today. This guy, Pettis, says he told reporters following the Saturday deadline to transmit Broward's results that the canvassing board had, in fact, included those provisional ballots in its count. The 205 previously open provisional ballots, are they included in the numbers sent to the state or not? Asked a reporter. Yes, they are, Pettis responded. They have been included in that process, but there's no way to separate out valid and invalid, correct? I'll go to Blaze or Richard.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, the problem here is that if she just did her job, which is she's supposed to report the totals 30 minutes after the polls close at 7 p.m., and she did not accomplish that. While other counties across the state, whether large or small, Miami-Dade County with many more voters, tabulated its results in a timely fashion. But we always come down to Broward, where over 80,000 ballots came in after the deadline. And that's the core problem here. That's why you have these allegations of fraud, is because did those ballots actually arrive by the deadline of 7 p.m.? Who knows? Only Brenda Snipes knows. And that's the problem.
What's so concerning about what Brenda Snipes just said is that she either has no clue what's going on, or she's blatantly lying to everyone in that clip. And just think about this for a second. Brenda Snipes took illegal ballots and willingly mixed them with legal ballots.
That is for sure. That is true.
Just think about that for a second. This is a supervisor of elections. It was such a bad job and such incompetence that they could not tell which ones were legal, which ones were illegal. So they were just like, you know what? Let's just throw them all together. That's the problem. And that's one of the reasons why the Florida GOP, we have been fighting so hard for transparency, because unless we know exactly what they're doing behind closed doors, we're never going to know what they're doing. We have no idea.
You're never going to know, guys. And I'm telling you, Republicans will never win Florida again unless this stuff is cleaned up. It is. I mean, every day I keep saying, I can't believe this is happening. But it seems to get worse on a daily basis. They want to extend the deadlines out till next Tuesday. Into some of the recount. They wanted to keep extending the deadlines and all these lawsuits because they think they'll find the votes. Trump is exactly right, guys.
But Laura, that's because they cannot win unless they litigate their way to a win. Look, there's not enough votes out there. You know, we had 41 of 67 counties report today for the machine recount, and Bill Nelson only increased his vote total by 49 votes. At this rate, Bill Nelson will pass Governor Rick Scott. In the year 36-48,
yeah, this all has
this
to be,
race is over.
This is ridiculous. But I think the feds have to come in. The state's not cleaning this up. By the way, again, some people might not already know this, but Gillum and Nelson's lawyers are fighting to include non-citizens in the vote in Palm Beach, I guess in the recount. So
we saw that in Palm Beach in the transcript, Laura.
Yeah. So that's in the transcript that came out, a couple days. Unbelievable, guys.
And the
thank
real
you for
battle
making,
has yet to begin.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for explaining this. We'll have you back because this is going to be going on for some time. Now, as we just explained, incompetence, well, it runs deep in some of the Florida, the more Democratic counties. And for raising questions, Republicans are told that they're engaged in wild conspiracy theories. But some of the most prominent Democrats in the country get a free pass for using completely over-the-top language about the Georgia gubernatorial race without any evidence at all. Watch.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear. And I say that publicly, it's clear.
I think that Stacey Abrams' election is being stolen from her using what I think are insidious measures to disenfranchise certain groups of people. And
if she'd had a fair election, she already would have won.
No media concern about that. Here now, David Bossie, Deputy Campaign Manager for Trump 2016, and of course, Fox News contributor, and Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, NRA TV host. Dan, let's start with you. If the GOP is subverting the rule of law in Florida by asking folks to follow actual election law, what are the calls, what do you call this from the Democrats in Georgia?
Well, I'm not surprised Hillary Clinton thinks Stacey Abrams is the governor. She thinks she's the president. I mean, she thinks legitimately that she won that election. Hillary Clinton's still confused, Laura, that the Electoral College is how we elect presidents and not the popular vote. So none of this is stunning. But this seems to be, this is what the Democrats do now. This is their new MO, Laura. They lose the Senate. You'll see a bunch of liberal outlets, the Vox type, Vox with a V. Every time I say that, someone says, why are you talking about Fox? Vox. You'll see them say, well, we got to disband the Senate. This isn't working. The Supreme Court, they lose the Kavanaugh thing. We got to stack the courts. These are the Democrats. They don't take fidelity to the rule of law seriously. And one more thing on this, Laura. We had a bad night. I mean, Republicans, let's just accept it. It wasn't a great night. It wasn't a total wipeout, but it wasn't a good night. You know what happened, Laura? Everybody went to work the next day. They took their kids to the soccer games. No one was bashing the Starbucks in like Antifa. Liberals, just get over it, okay? The Georgia race is over. You lost.
All right, Dave. We are going to get into some of the real numbers in that House later on with McCarthy and Scalise. But this Georgia stuff is toxic, what they're doing, because they're actually intimating a whole lot of negative things on the left against Brian Kemp to almost delegitimize him before he's inaugurated as the next governor of Georgia.
They're trying to do to Brian Kemp what they did to President Trump right from the first day. He's not a legitimate president.
Not our president.
He's not our president. He did not win a rightful election. And therefore, for the last 2 years, they do not respect him. They bash him. They try to further delegitimize him. And they're going to continue to do this in Georgia. They're going to try to do this to Rick Scott in Florida. They're doing it across the country. We see this. I look at this as potentially a stress test for how they want to go ahead and learn from this, even though they won't win everything, a stress test for 2020, so that they can, between now and then, figure out how to manipulate, how to, through litigation, and through backdoor maneuvers, win these races by stealing them in 2020.
And Dan, it's not just, kind of general criticism of the process. The reason the Georgia allegations are so toxic and poisonous all across the board is because they're intimating that Kemp's supporters and the machinery of the process in Georgia is basically racist. That this is you're suppressing black votes by cleaning up voter rolls, which is mandated by law, by the way. But it's always race. They're always pushing the racial narrative.
Yeah, Laura, it's really disgusting that you're seeing this down in Florida as well with Gillum, the Democrat nominee, who was, listen, he was on the campaign trail. He worked hard. He lost fair and square. But the narrative in Florida now as well, there was some racial politics involved, and Florida wasn't ready for a black governor. Laura, Florida voted for Barack Obama twice. Right. I wish they hadn't, but they did. It's just such a stupid narrative, and it's really pernicious, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, because it's such Laura, a serious question. Is there anything worse to call someone in the country than a racist? And the liberals know that. They know this is nonsense, and it's really, really sad they keep ripping the country apart, going back to identity politics.
And Dave, you keep thinking it's not going to go lower. But it does. For all the high and mighty talk of, they go low, we'll go high, and Michelle's saying that on the book tour. Okay, that's fine.
They put people in the streets. They create violence. They create distractions. Look, if it was me, if I was Ron DeSantis, I'd be firing this woman, Brenda Snipes, in one of my first actions on the job, because no one in Florida, no matter what side you're on, can have confidence in this
But
woman.
why did Rick Scott let her stay there?
Well, I think that's a question for a different day. But I think the new governor coming in with a clean slate, can make moves. I hope he does, and he needs to take very seriously what steps he needs to take to make sure Florida's vote in 2020 is clean.
Right, but if the states can't get this done, there should be a Voting Rights Act investigation undertaken by the Justice Department.
Maybe Mueller could take this over. I don't know. Maybe if he's really looking for something to do and he wants to find voter suppression, issues, maybe Mueller could investigate Snipes.
Yeah, Bongino, can you imagine what they'd say about, like, Matthew Whitaker comes in and, like, totally upends Florida? They would really have the conspiracy going if that happened with the acting attorney general. All right, guys, thanks so much. And coming up, how will House Republicans, what Dave and I were just talking about, resist Democrats who are determined to lob subpoenas at the president? Fresh off their leadership elections today, current House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Whip Steve Scalise will explain. Now, one of the lessons to be learned from the midterms was the failure of RNC and GOP party leaders to highlight the races that really mattered. Well, California is a prime example where even a week later, the GOP is still losing races they should have won. Republicans now have the least representation in that state since the Civil War. Oh, it's a heartbreak. Here to react are two Republican leaders in the House who were reelected today to their positions for the 116th Congress today. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, of course, hails from California, and House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, whose book, I love it, I'm holding it, Back in the Game, One Gunman, Countless Heroes, and the Fight for My Life, just hit the shelves yesterday. I love the book. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. We have to talk about the midterm results first. Congressman McCarthy, I want to talk to you about this California deal because I've been talking to a couple committee people in California, and they are enraged because they felt like they were outspent in that state, they were outmaneuvered, and there was no reason at least maybe five of those seats should flip Democrat. What insight can you give us?
Well, a couple things have happened in California. First of all, they created this top two system. So here we are in the top two. It pushes out Republicans.
Well, no one understands what that means. Top two.
Top two is in a primary. Whoever gets the top two numbers go on to the general election. So in our Senate race, we didn't even have a Republican. And now we're finding when we had our Senate race before, there's no Republican.
Yeah, but let's talk about the House races because those
this is what causes the problem because you're not getting the quality head. So we didn't have a strong governor candidate that could help carry us through. We didn't have a strong statewide ticket. We had 7 seats in the congressional that Republicans currently hold that Hillary carried. And then we had Michael Bloomberg come over the top of it with about $5 million in
huge
each
money.
race. They spent $150 million more than we had in this process. Now, we went out with the Vice President, Mike Pence, and we raised more money than ever had before. But when you can write a $5 million check and you focus just on Stephen Knight, or if you go into, look at Mimi Walters. She was ahead by 6,000 votes on Election Day, winning. And then these provisional ballots come forward, and so all of a sudden we're losing.
Is there transparency in looking at these provisional ballots in California?
You know the difference between California and Florida? We don't have a Republican governor. We don't have Republican.
So you can't. What's the oversight like?
Very, very difficult. We're
in
there with our attorneys right now.
Any fraud?
We're finding others. You wonder if they're registered to vote in the process. It's the election law what they going through. We're analyzing all of them now. But we were ahead, and now we've lost Jeff Denham. We're behind in Mimi Walters. Young Kim, we're challenged it. David Valadeo. And then you look at Dana Rohrabacher.
Yeah.
Here are seats that were fundamentally different on Election Day.
We got to learn that one fast because that's a big one. Congressman Scalise, I want to also talk about what's going on the Democrat side before we talk about what might happen going forward with the Republicans. There's a lot of pushback against Nancy Pelosi becoming the next speaker. You all can vote in the speaker's race, right? It's for everyone to vote. Would you support Nancy Pelosi? Will you announce your support for Nancy Pelosi as speaker tonight?
I think they deserve Nancy Pelosi as speaker, but I sure don't want to see it. I went through 2.5 years of Nancy Pelosi as speaker, and I came in not long after Kevin, and she was speaker, and you saw what she did to the country. I mean, they ran through Obamacare with the famous, you got to pass the bill to find out what's in it. They did cap and trade in the House. They did
but isn't it more radical than she, right? The next person could be worse.
Their party's even further left. You saw
so why wouldn't you want
Cortez? Cortez from New York was actually protesting in Nancy Pelosi's office because she doesn't think Nancy Pelosi is liberal enough. Imagine that. So that's how far left of center their party has moved. And if they govern that way, Laura, that's not how they campaigned. All those districts that they flipped seats from Republican to Democrat, those candidates didn't say they were going to be more liberal than Nancy Pelosi. In fact, many of them said they were going to be pro-life, pro-gun, and anti-Pelosi. Their very first vote in January will determine whether or not they keep or break that promise.
You think she ultimately gets the speakership?
Yeah,
Pelosi?
I think she does.
She does. Even we got a whole list of people who are saying she shouldn't run. They don't want her to run, but it won't be enough.
They will fold because they came from the minority to the majority. They won with women votes. They elected a number of women. They're going to remove the woman speaker for a man. But think of this. If they go back to the same old...
Subpoenas are going to be flying.
Oh, yeah, but this is the old leadership, right? Their average age in the process more 78, but this is the same leadership they had before. Nancy, Steny Hoyer, and Clyburn. That the American public rejected.
Youth. It screams youth. What about you guys? So let's talk about
Our average
speakership.
age is 52.
Let's talk about what is in store with you versus Jim Jordan. Obviously, the president wants Jordan to be, he tweeted out, I guess, today, he's interested in Jim Jordan going to the judiciary, House Judiciary, to be a, kind of a help to him on judiciary.
The president and I talk almost every single day. He just called me tonight talking about, we just had our election. Jim Jordan and I came in together. I think we're more united than we've ever been. Jim serves on oversight. Jim also serves on judiciary, so he's there to make those fights. I think as we move forward, we'll do our steering committee and people can run for the ranking member slots. Those slots are open and the conference will decide.
How are you going to deal with these subpoenas? They're promising investigations and everything from the naming of the post office pavilion and the licenses and the emoluments clause and,
Laura,
who knows?
Look, the Kavanaugh hearing showed that the country doesn't want that kind of obstruction. Well, look, President Trump's worked really hard to get this economy back on track, and we've worked very close with the president, and he's talked to a lot of us about the things that we want to do to keep the economy going. If they want to focus on turning back the economic growth, trying to raise taxes, they're not going to have that happen. If they want to try to just sit there and obstruct and block everything that the president wants to do and go down the impeachment road, that's not what they those members that flipped seats from Republican to Democrat campaigned saying they would do opposite of that. So if they do, they're going to pay a dear price, and ultimately that's one of the ways we get the majority back in 2 years.
Congressman McCarthy, a lot of concern about the caravan that was supposed to never get here, or was getting a month away, or don't worry, it's not an emergency. Well, a lot of people in the caravan are in San Ysidro tonight.
Oh, they're on the wall.
Yeah, they're on the wall. They're climbing over the fence. Oh, it's not a wall, but they're climbing over the fence on top.
In California, we built the wall, and that's part of the funny
part of it.
Part of it, we have to finish it.
Are they passing ballots up to them? Like, here, pass it to him, and then pass it on.
They write the provision.
But what about the lame duck? What's going to happen to the lame duck? A lot of people are worried that's either going to be a bad amnesty deal, a cram through of amnesty, not going to get funding for the wall. The president needs that funding.
Look, on the House side, we've been very good about this. We have more than $5 billion. We've been the most going through. That's addition to the billions we've already sent. The Senate has already been the challenge. We're working with the president and the Senate because we are still in the majority till January. And the American public wants their border secure. So that's why we're moving forward. We will be coming back in after Thanksgiving as well. We have 7 of the bills to get finished, and one of them happens to be dealing with this as well. I think we'll get it done.
We need to fully fund the wall, and we've been working with President
Trump $5 billion doesn't get
to do this.
But that's why I introduced a bill to build the wall.
Ultimately, let's have this fight in the next few weeks.
Let's plug the book, though.
Back in the game. First of all, you look great. You're doing great. You're an inspiration to so many people. How you dealt with hardship. We all deal with hardship in our life. You dealt with really tough stuff over the last year. And I just want to tell you, just for me and watching you, I got teared up because you are incredible. And this book is important for people to read and understand, much better than anything McCarthy has ever written. That's that dry policy stuff. This is personal inspiration, but also why you can never give up. Your faith has been so important to you.
Yeah, and Laura, faith was so important to me. One of the reasons I wanted to write this book is to feature all the people that helped me get back in the game. And there were real heroes. There were real miracles that happened. And my wife Jennifer and I went through and we called them the little miracles, that we just one thing after the other that happened on that ball field and afterwards that you can't explain any way except that they were true miracles from God. And then the heroes, from David Bailey and Crystal Griner, who risked their lives, got shot In the book, we go into detail about that shootout and just
And
how
stuff that
close it was
never had been revealed before.
Yeah, they almost ran out of ammo. David was almost hit fatally.
Yeah.
There were a lot of this. All of it's in the book. It's going to be something that everybody can get something out of about a happy ending.
The day of that shooting, he won't remember this because he was.
We're going to go to black here in a second.
But one thing I will tell you, we were there that day waiting for Jennifer. He's lucky he's alive.
No, we thought we lost you a number of times.
The doctor,
thank you so much. Back in the game, power of prayer. That's what I take away from it. Raymond Arroyo has answers for us in Seen and Unseen next. It's time for our Seen and Unseen segment where we expose some of the big cultural stories of the day. Well, getting banned from the happiest place on earth, Michelle Obama's subtle Trump book tour slights, and the lawyer to the porn star is, well, booked for hitting a woman. Joining us now is Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author of the Will Wilder stories. Raymond, a New York man now has been permanently banned from your favorite vacation destination.
From Disney. Dion Cheney is his name. Now, he is a recidivist Trump supporter, Laura. He's gone about the parks carrying these posters or banners that he's displayed all over the parks. Now, this is a guy who, on Broadway, went to a Broadway show, Frozen, rolled out a Trump banner. They had to pull it away from him. Then he goes to the Disney park, puts it on the front of the train station. They warned him because they have a policy, no flags or banners or signs that incite a crowd. Well, he tested it again this week. He went on Splash Mountain, held a banner above his head as he went down the falls. You see him there. And they escorted him off the property, banned him from ever returning. Now, he says it's because of the content of the sign. The truth of the matter is they do have this standing policy. My advice, wear a MAGA hat, keep your politics in the political realm, keep entertainment and fun where it belongs. Now, some people have problems with this, Laura, like Michelle Obama, who's embarked on a 13-city book tour to promote her new memoir. Her first stop was in Chicago last night, where she appeared in a glittery interview with Oprah. But between the old stories and inspirational talk were some pointed critiques of the president. Watch.
People ask, do I miss the White House? And it's like, no, I don't miss the house, because we took what was important in that house with us, and it is with us. It's family, it's values, it's the friendship. So the house is beautiful, and it's historic, and, you know, it was an honor to live there, but the people in it make it what it is.
People make it what it is. They took the magic, they took the glamour with them when they left the White House.
Oh,
Laura.
I see. So it's just
It's a shell now, just a sad shell. Then there was a meditation on going low. Remember, when they go high, we go low. Watch this. See who's going low here.
Get results when you go low. You just, get your attitude out. When you're in the White House and you have that platform and that responsibility where every word matters, you're often thinking, or at least Barack and I often thought, is what we're about to say going to help? Is it going to move the needle forward, or is it just going to make us feel vindicated in the moment?
So it's a gentle hit on Trump without leaving a bruise. Michelle is really good at this.
She is.
She kind of messages this interestingly. And then we found this montage, Laura. It was very interesting. There was a line she kept using in all these interviews to promote the book.
You're writing your book, Barack is,
55 times she used in that interview.
She says it's like a lot, too.
Well, maybe she should change the name of the book from Becoming to,
Maybe it's like.
Michelle Obama.
I've got to say, that's a gorgeous book cover.
Okay, we got to move to Avenatti. Breaking news tonight. Yeah. He has been arrested. Of course, Stormy Daniels' lawyer and Democratic presidential aspirant, Michael Avenatti, arrested by the LAPD tonight on allegations of domestic violence. Now, the victim's face is reportedly bruised and swollen. At the time of the arrest, Avenatti said, "She hit me first. This is bull." Fill in the blank. Now, that's one substance I think Avenatti probably has a lot of familiarity with. Your reaction to Avenatti's arrest here on these charges?
Here's what I'm going to say. Just because he takes conclusions with no evidence, I am not going to do that. I am a former defense lawyer, and I don't like the idea of convicting someone on an allegation. I don't know enough about this case.
So don't believe the victim without proving it.
I want to see some more. I don't see anything. The TMZ has a thing, and
it is interesting. The man that they raised up, that he was going to take Kavanaugh down, Trump down.
I'm still waiting for the 2 witnesses to spiking the punch bowl. Remember, it's like, I have 2 witnesses. They're going to come out any day now.
And there's a criminal referral, by the way, against him.
That guy is, come on. I mean, Tucker had the best description of him. I mean, but that having been said,
you're not convicting him yet.
I don't convict people. Remember, I stood up for Al Franken just because he had that weird picture. I didn't like that.
A merciful Laura Ingraham, you know?
It's like, his unpopularity might have cost the GOP a Senate seat in Arizona. And now Jeff Flake is trying to further harm his party before he leaves. Ken Starr and Andy McCarthy are here to sound off next. Thanks, Raymond.